So you're kind of like a split sort between a really tech affinity and coding lab type of guy, but also have this entrepreneurial spirit, right?
I've never taken a paid course in my entire life.
Oh,
I
really?
actually think so, but you don't need that. And as a developer, you need that if you're the one, like I said before, that was the 90-10%.
How much of an impact do you think those environments have on you personally? For example, what if your girlfriend wasn't supportive of that at all? What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Kibo podcast. Hope you're all doing well out there. In the meantime, we have a special guest with us today, Ramses Kamanda. How do I pronounce that? Kamanda, CTO at Kibo, currently the new startup. Thank you so much for taking the time and being here.
Well, thank you for having me. So
today, right now, it's 2 p.m. on a Saturday, right? Saturday afternoon. How's your day been, man?
Pretty good so far. Just had my first Five Guys experience. So
for real? The burger joint, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just opened the first location in Luxembourg. So there you
go. How'd you like it?
That was awesome. Very good. Very full. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Was it the grand opening today or what?
No. It's just that I hadn't gone yet, so I figured
It's kind of expensive, no? I find
it's a bit expensive. It's a bit on the expensive side of things, but
now you know.
You have to try it. It's not like I'm going to go there every day, But
true, fair enough. Did you already do something, for Kibo today, or is that your off day today?
No, there's no off days with Kibo, unfortunately. So no, I already did a bit of development this morning. Just some lighter things that don't necessarily have to do with the main app directly. But just enough some maintenance, like some refactoring of the code. That's about it.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about that for a bit, because you're now CTO at Kibo, right? But this is not the first time you've been CTO at a startup.
Right? Actually, my previous startup is Click, and yeah, we're trying to revolutionize the event industry. Unfortunately, the team wasn't necessarily ready for the big shift in mentality from going from a project to an actual company.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what was Click about?
So we were trying to basically the whole premise of it was an event happens, you put it on the app, other people can either join the event or say that they're going or not, and earn coins by actually showing up to events that they said they were going to go to. Yeah, that also helps the event organizers know exactly how many people they're going to have to order drinks and music and whatever not. Yeah, that was kind of the premise of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was an app, right? So app-based service. And then you also, did you have any other one who helped you with the tech side of things?
No. I was alone there too, unfortunately.
Yeah, because as far as I understood it, right, you do the entire, like everything that has to do with tech, right? Like setting up the app, setting up the background and foreground, making sure everything works on the phone, the websites. Is that all you?
Yeah, all me. The only thing I don't like, the only two things I don't touch that are tech are the landing page, because I set it I set it up. We use Webflow, which is a really awesome tool that helps you build websites in the easiest way possible.
Okay.
And the analytics, because I've already set that up, and now it's all up to Ronan to figure this thing out. So.
Okay. Yeah. Right, but then since your CTO times at Click, which ended as a project, so it never made incorporation.
So we incorporated the company, but the problem is the people in the company weren't ready for the shift between just a friendly project where everybody's friends and everybody's having a good time. I mean, there's no pressure whatsoever, to actually going live and having actual people depend on the product. And because there's a lot of hidden things that you don't see. For example, like all the legal matters between co-founders. There's it's a really tough situation in general. So it's a really tough switch. I mean,
Right.
and when the bigger the team, the harder the switch, right? At Kibo, we're 3 people, so making the switch from a project to an actual company was fairly easy. But if you go from if you have 6 people and everybody's like, okay, well, I want this much equity, nobody's happy with how much equity they're getting. Things start to, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. That's crazy. You were 6 people in total, and you did all the tech.
Yeah. I mean, the others were all focused on different things,
Yeah.
or event organization or marketing, etc.
That's pretty cool. But then, so back then you used to do everything in tech, and now at Kibo you also do everything in tech. And before Kibo became Kibo, you were also part of the kind of OG Kibo team, right? When it was Student Up back in the days. I also talked about that with Robin. And back then in Student Up, it was also you 3.
Yeah.
And you also did all the tech work, like all the background.
I mean, I did do all the tech, but there we had a bit more help. We had especially because we hired a few interns left and right, or people to help us for some other things. Like we wanted to have an online version of the Student Up platform, so we hired someone to develop that. It ended up not being a success, so we didn't really publicize it too much. But but then that wasn't my involvement. I mean, I was overseeing the project, but I wasn't involved in development there. And I think there's a few other smaller things, like we wanted to develop a database, so we looked into hiring someone for that. So there was a bit more help, but not.
Yeah, I just realized maybe for the ones who haven't seen the previous podcast, we can elaborate a bit on what Student Up was, how it turned into Kibo, what Kibo is now.
Great. So basically, the Student Up was the social media for entrepreneurs. So you could go on there and meet other people to start your company with, get all the information you need, find projects around you, find internships around you, and all these things.
Robin said it was like the Tinder for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. That's perfect. We even had the left and right swiping in there. People. Yeah. So that was it. And what we realized is that people came to Kibo not because of the actual fact that they wanted to start a business, but just because they were looking for something to do that was actually fulfilling to them and that they actually enjoyed doing. So they were all coming up with crazy ideas like, oh, I want to do, something to do with marketing, but I want it to be marketing for green companies or whatnot. And we'd be like, okay, cool. This is how you can start it. These are the co-founders that you can get, whatever, post a project on there. We also had, I think we had Just Smile on there as well.
What did you have on there?
Just Smile. They're I don't know if you've had them on the podcast yet, but you should if you haven't.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah, they're a company that does a fully fully green products. So they bamboo toothbrush and all that stuff. So it's fully recyclable.
Interesting.
They're also really nice. Also from Maastricht. So but so we had them on the platform as well. And what we realized, people just didn't come to start businesses, but rather to join or find a job or join a business that they truly cared about. And we found that that's actually the case with a lot more people than just the people that came to our app. A lot of students just don't know what to do with their lives because they want to find something that's both fulfilling, pays well, impresses their friends, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the list of requirements goes on, and we figured, okay, it's about time that someone actually puts a resource out there that can help these people find that path. And that's Kibo.
Okay. And Kibo now is an AI, right? Completely different thing.
Yeah. So to put it very simply, AI is a career chatbot. We have a lot of things in the pipeline, but that you'll see very soon.
Okay. That's pretty cool. And so you're kind of like a split sort between a really tech affinity and coding lab type of guy, but also have this entrepreneurial spirit, right? So
Right.
I kind of want to talk about both those things because, normally we only have like the typical entrepreneur, right? Like the CEO, but you barely get any tech people on podcasts or interviews like that, right? It's only the PR people, the marketing managers and stuff like that. So it's interesting to talk to you now. When did your kind of tech affinity coding life start? Was that like childhood growing up or?
Oh, funnily enough, I've always said since I was a little kid that like I want to be a robotics engineer. Don't fucking know why. I
Really?
don't.
Robots are cool, you know?
Yeah, robots are fucking cool, but like I never, I never built a robot in my life until like I went to college. So when I started college, I was doing computer science. No, wait, it had a fancy title, electrical and computer engineering. There you
Mm.
go. And there, yeah, I loved it. I started coding then, but I didn't code much in like the computer department. Like I wasn't like making operating systems or robots and stuff. Like I like those things. Yeah, they're fun, but that's not what I was interested in. I was really interested in artificial intelligence. So I learned Python and like on my own. I learned TensorFlow, all these libraries on my own. I started building a lot of things. And that's when I realized, like, okay, well, I can do all this on my own. I don't need necessarily to like school to tell me what to do. I can learn by myself online and all these things. So it's really interesting, and I really picked up from there to learn more and more.
Okay, that's okay. So you kind of went to uni and then you started exploring kind of additional possibilities yourself, rather than what you had in school. That's pretty cool. And then what about the entrepreneurial spirit then?
Weirdly enough, again, it was also like kind of unexpected. I of course like everybody else, I always looked up to like the big entrepreneurs, like the Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos of the world. Um, but I never thought I'd start a business until like actually like my friend Sam told me, "Yo, like I have this awesome project. It's called Click. Like we want to do this and then." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." He's like, "Yeah, but we need someone to develop the app, and we don't know anybody that can do that." It's like, okay, well, I've been messing around with this for a while now. I can probably do that. And actually started developing it for them. And then that's the point at which I was like, okay, this is actually cool. This could get somewhere. This could help people. This could make a change. And that's where I kind of had the entrepreneurial spirit kick in. Be like, okay, I want to keep doing this.
Okay, and was it more like the company's vision mission that kind of drove you, or was it more of that small independent type of culture that you were looking for, or did you because big companies also make great changes.
Yeah, no, they do. But I think for me, what really pulled me in was the fact that it was just different from what university tells you. Like when you're in university, like you do projects after project after project, and look, whilst they're fine and fun to do, you can't apply them to the real world. You can't really take them. Like take for I don't know, but in Maastricht, you have to make a golf game at some point. You can't take that golf game and then go to people and be like, "This is what I made. Try it out. It's awesome." And then you can't keep working on it after the project deadline is over. So you can't improve on it. You can't do anything with it. So I really like that aspect of it. And then obviously like the vision was amazing, and this like small culture was amazing because it was just like a group of friends kind of coming together and building something.
Right.
A bit of everything.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And the self-taught languages, like the programming languages that you taught yourself, how did you just watch YouTube tutorials, or did you follow paid courses?
I've never taken a paid course in my entire life.
Oh,
I
really?
actually think like if anyone watching this wants to take a paid course, go ahead. But I think they're complete scams. So yeah, well, at least for programming. For other things, maybe not, but for programming for sure. I watched mostly YouTube videos. I started with the easiest language as well, like Python. And in school, I was being taught C++. So I started kind of like on different scales. Like C++ is extremely hard, and Python is extremely easy. So I kind
Oh.
of experienced both sides of the coin.
School being university.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, in the end, yeah, I could like learning through YouTube videos. So I still
Nice.
learn like that sometimes today even.
Really? That's pretty impressive. But yeah, I thought so. I remember when I was growing up, we had this coding course, and everybody was terrible at it, right? We had it was back in high school. It was JavaScript, right? Everybody was terrible, and we had this one guy who was amazing, only guy in the class, and he said he always talked about how now everything is online, and how easy and accessible it was. And for me, coding was always like this really difficult thing, right? So like very very abstract, because it's like, well, it's a language, right? So you have to learn the language. And I was like, no way that they can just teach you this language on YouTube. You know what I mean? But like more and more people like you are just coming up with just like, yeah, I just taught this myself.
Yeah, I mean, you can try it. It's honestly, it's really, really easy. Like if you start with in the right places, you can definitely pick it up really fast.
Do you have recommendations where to start at? If you, for example, want to learn, like, is Python like a good start if you want to get into, for example, software development or just programming?
I think it's decent, but you'll find that it's very limiting very fast. Python is very, very much used in like servers and like a little bit of front end, but not much, and a lot of machine learning. So those are the areas that you really want to go towards. Python is the perfect starting point. Though it doesn't enforce types, and this is a bit more technical, but it's always nice to learn types and how to make sure that everything matches. So for me, the best starting point would be either Dart, which is a really good starting point because it's a visual language mostly, because it's on the Flutter framework. So you spin up an app on your phone and it's really easy to learn. You change one little thing and then you have a button there and it does things. A really good starting point, I think. Or Java. Java is also a pretty good starting point.
Okay. Well, I hated Java. I don't know if that's different now, but because no, but yeah, well, I think a common not misconception, but a common saying that I think might be true is, I want to get your opinion on this. Either you love coding or you hate it. What do you think?
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I think either you love it and then you're like, I think it's very much about your personality. If you're curious by nature and you want to figure things out and you're willing to like sit down and be like, okay, this is my problem and I can solve it, then finding that like that process, like looking up all the errors that you get and all that shit, like that, if you like that, go for it. Like you love coding. But if you're more the type to be more abstract and artsy, or like not necessarily enjoy facing a problem head on and being like, okay, fuck, like I have this error, I've had this error for the past 24 hours, I don't know what to do, and like keep like looking it up and going at it. Don't try coding. Like you'll actually hate it. A lot of students, even in like my studies that were doing computer science stuff, hated coding. They just liked the theory of stuff.
Really? Okay. And yeah, this is kind of interesting. It brings me to a question that I have after I kind of talked to you about your position now at Kibo, right? Kibo, so the AI, right? The topic that you so like. What is currently your responsibilities in the startup, right? You guys are in beta phase right now. So there's an app, there's a landing page, and we're trying to improve it to get it out to the people as a final version, right? What are you up to these days?
Right. Well, at the moment, so we started using, we didn't just start using it, but we are using a 3-phase model where it's a 3-week cycle. The first week is going to be a learn week. Second, like where we actually figure out what we want to build for the cycle. Do some customer interviews to see if the users actually like the solution that we came up with. The second week is a build week, so we actually build whatever we said in the learn week, and then we have a measure week where we do measurements. We use analytics to figure out, okay, they liked it, they didn't like it. We also use A/B tests to figure out, like, this portion of like 50% of people have this version, 50% of that version, and this version outperform the other one based on that metric. Um, so yeah, that's the cycle that we do. And currently we're in the learn week. Or we extended a second learn week because we just came out of an incubator. So we, had a lot to do last week, but this week or the coming week, we're going to be a lot more calm and we're going to do an actual learn week. But we're in the process of making a new program that's a lot more practical. So rather than just talking to Kibo about your problems, we are actually going to try and find solutions to your problems. And, for example, if you're looking for a job, we can help you find the best job for you, and those things. That's what we're in the process of kind of building at the moment.
Okay, and your responsibilities in that, like what are you?
Great. Yeah. Great. So during the learn week, my responsibilities are just to ideate and also design a little bit with Robin. Those are my main responsibilities, and also kind of in the background, figure out how we're actually going to build these things, because come the build week, I only have a week to build whatever feature we thought up. Mm-hmm. That's a very short amount of time. So I have to run things out very well, and exactly how much time I'm going to spend on each feature. And so that's kind of also what my responsibilities are here. And also say, like, this is technically feasible. This is completely outlandish.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that as a CTO now in the startup, you're probably like a, software developer and programmer, right? Because normally those are like two different jobs, mm-hmm. right? You have the software developer, the programmer. And so now would you say that in the Learn Week, you're more like the software developer, right? Like the guy looking top down, seeing how things work, what would make sense or not. And then in the Build Week, then you become the programmer.
I'd say so, yeah. A lot more, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
right. And then, so for those people then who want to get into, kind of the same lane as you are now, software developing, programming, I want to talk with you about your common ops in a little bit more detail. All right. So, in high school, you had no coding experience.
No, none whatsoever.
So you started with C++ in university, which you said was kind of one of the harder languages.
Honestly, it's one of the hardest languages you can learn.
And then you taught yourself more languages on the side that were more connected to machine learning, mm-hmm. right? And then you finished your bachelor's.
No, so I didn't finish my bachelor's. So I actually, and this is a bit of a mistake between quotation marks, is that I dropped out of school early because I thought that the startup that I was in at the time was going to be successful. Fortunately, it wasn't. I don't think it's necessary to have a degree to be an entrepreneur. I don't think it's necessary to have a degree to be a programmer either. But with that being said, the level of skill that is required if you don't have a degree is immense. Like, you need to be able to sell yourself very well, way better than if you had a degree. Right. And you have to have the coding experience and the projects to show for it as well, because most employers are not going to care whether you have a degree, but they're going to care if you actually know what you're talking about. Because if you have a degree, you're most likely know what you're talking about. But if you don't have one, they're going to need to know and be reassured that you do.
Okay. Then you said it was kind of a mistake.
Yeah. Because I think definitely, I could have, if I had I could have finished my degree. I would have finished at this period, in this period of time, but I decided not to. And I think life in a broader sense would have been easier if I just followed that for now. And then after I get my degree, then I can do whatever I want, rather than dropping out and then having to, put a lot of pressure on myself to succeed with other ventures, be it like freelancing or entrepreneurship, instead of just having continuing to have a degree and putting the pressure on myself to have an actual degree. Not that not that I think it's essential, but just that it makes things a bit easier.
Okay. So you would, if you could turn time back, you would finish your degree and then start kind of the startup life, or
I would do both at the same time.
you do both
Right
at the
now,
same time.
yeah, because right now I'm doing freelancing and a startup, and that's working well. So I think I spend a bit more time on freelancing than I did on school. So yeah.
But did you think both of those things wouldn't work out back in the days? Because
Yeah,
oh,
like if the startup works out, I won't have time for school. Like there's no way. So I decided, okay, well I'm going to drop out because I wasn't a big fan of school in the first place anyway. But
right. Yeah, because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how the tech industry is probably the most ever-changing industry. Innovations. When you talk about innovations and stuff like that, and universities, they don't keep up with that change, right? They cannot keep up with the level of change that is happening in the real world. And for you, without university, you probably would have never gotten into the what you're doing now, right? Because would you say university kind of exposed you to what you're doing now, or do you think you could have done it in a sense without the studies that you pursued?
So I don't think I don't think I could have done it without the studies that I pursued, but just because I would have never been exposed to programming in that direct a manner and that forceful a manner. Because at first, programming is so especially when you start with a really hard language, you don't want to do it anymore. You do the first couple things, and then you reach the first error. You're like, oh, I don't know what this is, and you're like, this, I don't want to do that. And then
yeah.
You up, But there you have an assignment to do. You have to actually show your assignment, and you're kind of forced through. The first 6 months of programming are very painful. After that, they're very enjoyable. Because when you figure it out, and then become knowledgeable about it.
Okay.
It's very enjoyable. But the first 6 months are very painful. And if I didn't have that schedule and that kind of structure to my learning in the early stage, I would have probably given up on it.
Really?
That being said, that could have been done in high school rather than in college, and then college would have become.
Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of a forceful love, isn't it? It takes some time to fall in love with programming.
Yeah, it does. But weirdly enough, it's like it's like your first cigarette. I don't know. It's a bit of a.
Never tried. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, the first cigarette is always a little bit painful because you're like coughing and all that, but the nicotine still gets to your brain and you still kind of feel that rush that everybody's talking about.
Okay. Yeah. So was that with programming? Like within the first 6 months you hated it, but somewhere within you still fell in love with it?
Definitely. It still feels right. It still feels. I mean, come on. You're building something from scratch. You're building a small video game. I had a really good teacher, to be fair, for 6 months. And he gave us really simple tasks like building a small video game based on stuff that he'd already made, so that we didn't have to do everything from scratch. It was really fun. So that part was really amazing. And I also did a lot of robotics because that was more my course at the time. So actually seeing that what your program actually interact with the real world I think it's really amazing in that sense.
Yeah. Okay. I'm out of interest. Your program taught you only C++ or also other languages?
Yeah, only C++ for the first 2 years. In the third year, I would have learned another language, but that was in a different university. And then I moved to Maastricht, and in Maastricht, they taught Java all the 3 years. Sorry,
okay.
All 3 years, yeah.
And is that because I do not know, is that a common thing in software engineering curriculums, or do they normally teach more languages or only one language?
I think they usually teach more than one languages. Most the ones that do are more innovative than the others, because it's like you said before, like the software industry is ever changing. So if you want to keep up with the industry, you have to learn more languages, like the newer, more hip languages.
Right.
Uh, yeah. And I think in that respect, they would teach you more of those languages. And I know for a fact that most universities teach you at least three languages by the time you graduate.
Hmm.
Uh, but Maastricht only teaches you the one. They've started
Okay.
to incorporate. To be fair, they've started to incorporate a second one, but only last year. So
All right. Okay. I mean, they're a young university, so I guess they're still learning. Um, if you could turn time back, right, you would have done your bachelor's and then, or you would have done it both at the same time, right? Bachelor's and startup. Do you think you would have pursued a master's?
no, 100% not.
Okay,
Um,
how's that?
Especially in programming, they're useless. If you want to do a master's like from programming towards something more businessy, go for it. That's actually really helpful, I think, because it puts you in a very good position for employment and puts you more into like the innovation department kind of thing. And I think that can be very beneficial for some people. Now, for myself, uh, I know that anything that I could have learned, especially in the computer science masters, I could learn on my own, or I could learn at a company.
So would you say that after um, like somebody held your hand through the process of falling in love with coding throughout the however like the beginning period, would you say that for the ones who do fall in love with it, that they're better off doing it by themselves, right? Like learning by doing, rather than you know going through further masters and whatever.
Yeah, 100%. Especially as a developer, if your goal is to be a developer, do it. Go for it on your own. The university is not really going to teach you the best practices. They're going to teach you very general stuff, very much theory oriented, but not a lot of practical applications like data structures. You get taught those, but you don't know how to use them in the real world and when they're going to be used. Because ultimately, 90% of programming is just reusing old code that other people, well, not old code, but like code that has already been written by other people, and you don't get to do a lot of that in university because usually they tell you to write stuff from scratch because you have to learn, and that's fair, like that's fine. But in your actual job, you're going to be using those libraries. Um, so you won't have to do that, and you're not taught to do these things for you. And I think in that sense, if you find a good project that you're passionate about and you enjoy coding, do that. Wait, like 100%.
Okay, interesting. I thought I didn't know. So programmers in the real world, they take the code from those libraries and they just adapt them in their respective systems.
Right. So it depends what you work at. So if you're, I mean, obviously, if you're the ones developing those libraries, you're working on that code yourself, yeah, of course, right? But that's only 10% of the people, like the developers, the worldwide. I think maybe even less. The other 90% are using those libraries and making things with them. So those libraries are designed specifically to be used by developers. So you can specify some parameters or some things, and they'll or use them in a certain way that'll make them behave differently, but still with the same purpose. I think the most well-known library there is probably React. It's a web development framework, and you can make any website in the world, but it's all going to be based on that library in the end. That's reused by everybody. There's the 1%, let's say, that's developing it, and then other 99% using it.
Okay, I see. Interesting. I didn't know that. I thought programmers always, just program everything from scratch.
No.
Yeah.
That would be insane. That would be insane. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
meet a developer doing that, then either he's a genius, respect him for selling, but there's an easier option.
You know. Um, but yeah, we talked about a lot of those practical things that you can do or that you should do, right? As a programmer developer, you are besides having this full-time startup nowadays, you also do freelance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
on your side. Um, is that a choice because the startup you're in is in its starting phases, or is that an monetary experience thing that you kind of want to keep improving yourself on?
I think it's a bit of everything and a bit of a different thing. Like, I mean, obviously it's like a job, so it provides, and like in both a monetary way and in a motivational way. Like it's very motivating to have more work to do. Or at least I'm that way. That the more work I
Okay.
have, the more motivated I become. Weirdly enough. Um, but it's also like I just very much enjoy seeing what other people are doing and finding like the solution to their problems. So um, well, I can't really discuss the contracts actually. I was about to say about it today.
We don't want you to get sued now.
Yeah, but it's very interesting. It's definitely very interesting to see what people are up to.
Okay, and so what I want to say, uh, yeah, would you recommend freelancing over getting a side job at a company?
Hmm. It depends what you like better. If you like working on your own and doing everything yourself, and you're fine with having an inconsistent revenue, um, not that not that it's not good revenue in that sense, but I'm saying more like that you're not necessarily sure uh, next month that my paycheck is going to look like this and it's going to come from this place. If you find those two things, then I think freelance development is definitely a fun way to do things because you get to work on different projects and that can range from anything. I was asked. I didn't take the contract, so I can say it. But I was asked to develop the Indian Uber. I decided
Really?
not. Yeah, I decided not to take it because in the end, there's already an Uber there, and also like an Uber equivalent, and Uber is also trying to move there. So it didn't make any sense for me to make another app. And yeah, but all the way to other things like, for example, like financial institutions needed like a platform for people to communicate through or whatnot, and then you get to develop both of those. And I think it's a lot of fun. But the side job, on the other hand, it's guaranteed revenue, and on top of that, like you have a structure above you, so it's not like, okay, well, I'm going to work at from 12 p.m. to 3 a.m. It's I'm going to go to work from 8 to 5 and then go like, or maybe not 8 to 5, but like part time or whatnot, and that's all I'm going to do, with the
Right.
company. Freelance work for yourself, so all as long as you have loyalty to yourself, and I hope you do. You keep working. So yeah.
Yeah. Is is your freelance activity, is that already what you like and are good at, like machine learning related stuff, or does that range all over the place and you just want to get as much diversity in as possible?
I strive to get as much diversity as possible, um, especially if I can get to do new things that well, obviously not brand new things because you still need to produce something of quality. But like new concepts or new like applying something that I already know in a different way, like all these things are very interesting to me. So I think I'm looking more for diversity than doing the same thing over and over.
I mentioned those like stereotypes before. The either you hate coding or you don't. And I have a couple of more which I want to run by you, see what you think. So you should know. So as a programmer, you should, or developer, you definitely should have to know multiple programming languages.
It really depends what you're looking to do. I mean, uh, if there's so many, like being a programmer is like saying, if you're a movie director, you should do this or that. Like, there's so many different types of movies out there that you can't say, if you're in the movie industry, you do that. Um, if you're, let's say, an artist and you're trying to just add, like, present your website with all your art on it, first of all, I don't necessarily think you need to learn any programming languages, but even if you were to like build a website, then you only need to know one language. Well, yeah, one language. Um, but if, on the other hand, you're like a systems engineer and you're trying to build a client library for every possible client that can interact with your system, then you probably need to know closer to like 12 or 14 like of the most popular languages.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
your job is actually going to be, or like
Right.
the task.
I see your point. Um, what job do you think requires the most languages?
Uh, I think probably a library developer, but like for like for example, like a lot of bigger companies, Google and likes, release packages that you can use from any client, right? So that it's like they build a standard, and then you can use that standard, for example, for communication between two servers or between a client and a server, whatnot. And they try to make it as language agnostic as possible. And in that sense, that means that then they then need to make it compatible with all the top languages. I think in that job you probably need to know the most languages because you're developing something for a ton of different languages, but in like something very technical. So
Mm-hmm.
you probably have a
And
full team.
so how many languages are you proficient in right now, or like actively using,
So that I actively use.
or maybe both. I was assuming that you use the ones that you're proficient in.
No, I do, but I'm saying that I don't actively use all the ones that I'm proficient in. Well, the ones I actually use, like there, just yeah, I'd say four right now. Four, like that I'm really like actively using.
Is
Oh
that
no,
for
I,
is that for both freelancing and Kibo?
yeah, for freelancing and Kibo, and then proficient in. There's a lot more. I don't even know because the thing is, once you get to a certain like point in like, language understanding, this all that matters is the syntax. And once you know the syntax, you can build anything.
Because the logic is the same.
Exactly.
Okay. And which languages are you using for all the development in Kibo?
So in Kibo, we're using Flutter uh, for the front end on mobile. So that's in Dart. For the back end, we are using JavaScript and TypeScript rather. And I think that's it. I think that's all we're using. I mean, that's all we're actively using and developing.
Okay. And how much time would you say do you spend, like when you're working on Kibo, right? How much time do you spend on coding versus, the mental part behind it, coming up with logic and flowcharts, whatnot?
I wish I would spend more time on that. So, weirdly enough, when I'm working for freelance, I spend like maybe like 40% of my time coding and 60% of my time actually thinking about the things that I'm going to make.
Okay.
When working with Kibo, I just get really enthusiastic. So I just like code and think at the same time, which is a bit of a weird thing because then I get in like, obviously there's there's a lot of potential for error when you do that.
Right.
So yeah, sometimes I like forcibly like stop myself and I go, okay, no. I know we're excited and we want to develop this and it's amazing, but first we have to think about exactly what consequences there are to each piece of code. That's also why, for example, this morning I was stuck refactoring because it was a part of the time when I was really excited and I started coding a lot. And yeah, so there was unforeseen circumstances or consequences to the code that I'd written, so I had to refactor it. Yeah, so that's yeah.
Interesting. So The last kind of comment on this or misconception that people might have is that that's probably also due to the fact what and how they teach at universities. So people, programmers, right, are really good at maths.
That's a myth. I suck at math.
Really?
Yeah. If you want to know fun
Truly?
fact, I've never passed a calculus class in my entire life. Past
No
high
way.
school. In high school, I
Right.
was, but then in college, I haven't passed it. Like I've taken the class 4 times, 3 times, never passed it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I can't. I like calculus. I just suck at it, like
But then
majorly.
I'm wondering because also if you, at my hometown university, if you want to do computer science, right? The first, what is it, first year or something is really dry, like maths, barely any coding. Why do they do that?
Because programming is problem solving, and so is math. So it's a general guideline, let's say, like or like standard that if you're good at maths, you're good at problem solving, and if you're good at problem solving, you're going to be good at programming.
Right, but the standard is insane. The
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch though, in my opinion, because you can be very good at programming without knowing about math.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, I think I'm pretty sure that's going to motivate a lot of people right there.
yeah, because I think that was also a big misconception for me when I started coding. I was like, geez, I don't have too much math to do, and then it's just there's no math. Coding has no math, by the way. At best, if you're dealing with very very low level languages like C or C++, you can work with like bits, and then that's like binary math. But that's just knowing, okay, like like one means one, and like like it's just well, it's binary math. It's not.
Yeah. It's not the hardest, it's ones and zeros.
Yeah, it's ones and zeros. Just dealing with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I didn't expect that response. I thought you'd be quite good at math, because that's, I think, what most people think of people. Oh, you're a programmer, you went to university, you're probably so good at math.
Yeah, my university course has a ton of math in it, or had a ton of math in it. I swear, my bad.
It's fine. We'll beep it. We'll beep it.
Okay. I had a ton of math in it, but for no reason, for no good reason, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good to know, man.
One small thing I will say is some topics in programming have a lot to do with math. Like so, for example, if you're really into like machine learning and you want to understand why things are a certain way, you'll have to look at the math of it. And in that sense, you might need to be like to understand math a bit better. It's still not very like overly complex math.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to build something new, for example, like when you're dealing with image software like Photoshop or whatnot, and you want to rotate an image, just rotating an image, you need to know matrix math.
Right.
So, but you don't need that. And as a developer, you need that if you're the one, like I said before, like with the 90-10%. Like if you're one of those 10% of programs that are actually developing the packages to do those things, then you need to know these things, and still you can just Google them.
Right. Yeah. I figured. No. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And so with the startup life, right? Obviously, as startup, you're always hoping to grow to be a substantial firm one day. Do you think as Kibo grows now, you'll keep the freelancing on the side, or is that something that you think you'll, disregard as time goes by?
It's probably something that I'll throughout as time goes by. I think uh, it really depends. It heavily depends on Kibo's situation, because if I can remain at the lowest salary possible with Kibo, so that we can hire other people, I'd much rather do that and then have to struggle a little bit and do some freelancing on the side, rather than me being full time on Kibo and then like needing to have a full pay rather than and then
Mm-hmm.
not being hire that other person.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's fair enough. I think that's also good for the startup and for yourself, keeping yourself afloat. And then what if Kibo grows and you get a full-time salary, everything's looking prosperous,
Yeah.
prosperous. Yeah. Would you then consider giving up freelance, or is that just the passion
Um,
that?
but then I completely give up freelance. Honestly, like it's fun. It's fun to do, but it's not like essential to life for me. I think.
Okay. That's and so, but now, Kibo is in its starting phases. You keep yourself afloat with freelancing, even though you love coding, and that's probably with also regular entrepreneurs who just love what they're doing. What about those, those slump days, those lack of motivation days, those, oh, I gotta get out of bed days? Do you have those?
All the time, man. It's yeah, it's fine though, because I'm quite gifted in that sense where I work great when I'm in bed, so I can just stay in bed and code.
Out of
Like
bed, you're in your bed with your laptop.
yeah, you can do that. So in that sense, like that's a pretty cool thing about coding is that you can do it wherever you are, and all you need is a text editor on your laptop. So yeah, obviously, like there are days where I don't code at all, and those days are like it's fine. You take a day off then and you relax, and then the next day is just yeah, okay, let's get back to it. You know?
Is that is that just the motivation naturally coming back? Is that something you do? Is like how does it switch like that?
I don't really know. I've never really thought about it. I don't think it's necessarily natural, but I think it's just a process where I take a day off, I relax, I do whatever I want, and then it's like, okay, well, I get back, like, because I'm not. It's not like going back to an actual job. If you were to work, I don't know, at a 9 to 5, and then you're like, oh, I have to go to work again the next day, even though you just took a day off. I think like I don't feel that way. I feel like okay, well the next day I'm okay. Like I get to work on this again because like during my days off, I also think about work. Weirdly enough, I keep thinking, okay, like I can use this, I can do this that way, and then
Really?
I'm just excited the next day to like start implementing those things that I just thought of.
So kind of like you're like mentally not really never out of it.
No, I don't think I ever am, and I don't think I ever will be either. At least not for the foreseeable future.
Hmm.
Quite unhealthy, but
I'm
I
like,
do.
do you feel like it's a burden though? Like, do you wish you could shut it off?
A bit of both, like yes and no. As in, like I wish sometimes I could shut it off because obviously, like if you're spending some quality time with your girlfriend or going to dinner with some friends or whatnot, and you're still thinking about work the whole time, it can get very tiring, and it can lead to some like awkward situations where, like for example, like all you're thinking about is work, and then everybody's like having a conversation, and then you like kind of like you're thinking, and then you're like you don't really think about the conversation that's going on.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, but then again, like I also do really enjoy being fully focused on work because it makes me feel like no matter what the what the outcome is, like whether we like Kibo is successful, whether my freelancing career is successful, it always like I've given it my all. I've given everything that I have, like mentally and physically to it.
Hmm. Speaking of girlfriends and significant others, um, is when you quit your bachelor's, right? When you decided to discontinue your studies and join the startup, it's it's an uncommon and risky thing to do, right? And I think it worked out for you, which is great. A lot of people also after completing their bachelor's, I think they're a little bit scared to do that, to just like say, hey, I'm gonna join a startup. It might do great. I hope so, but I'll just do it. Did you? How was your environment like? For example, did your parents know that you were pursuing this thing?
So my my mom didn't like she knew about the startup, but I didn't tell her that I dropped out until 6 months after I did.
Really?
Um, yeah, because I felt yeah like to a certain extent like I wanted the startup to succeed, and then I can tell her I dropped out, but look at this,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
uh, so yeah, but otherwise, like support wise, I think, yeah, my girlfriend was really supportive at the time. She still is. Um, so yeah, I think she was pretty pissed that I dropped out of school, but
Your girlfriend.
yeah, yeah, I mean, and so was my mom, but it's just because, it's like the natural reaction to like people going against the flow,
Mm-hmm.
you are worried for them rather than like, you're not necessarily pissed at them, but like your worries then transform into, uh, you know, frustration or anger.
Yeah, but I think, well, you seem like a pretty intrinsic, motivated guy by yourself.
Mhm.
I think, right? Um, how much of an impact do you think those environments have on you personally? For example, what if your girlfriend wasn't supportive of that at all? She's like, "Hey, I prefer it if why don't you get a job?" Or something like that, or your parents. But I think a
And
lot of people have this type of traditional environment where they kind of fight that thought, even though they want to do it, but it's not a norm. You know what I mean?
I think in that sense, I'm quite stubborn. So, like by nature, that's just who I am. So yeah, I think I would have still done it. I don't think my environment was very supportive in that sense. I think the one person that was really supportive of me was my girlfriend, because she just believes in me. Like she believes that, like I can achieve the things that I say I want to achieve. So she supports me through it. That doesn't mean that she didn't still tell me, you need to find a job, you need to figure out your taxes, you need to figure this out, you need to figure this out. And she was like really like drilling me all the time and pushing me. I count that as support though.
Yeah.
And but my mom has never hid the fact that she hated the fact that I dropped out, and she wants me to go back to school. She mentions it every 2 weeks. She goes, "Oh,
Really?
it's easier if you went to school." And I was like, "Yeah, I know."
How do you deal with that? Do you just like just ignore it?
Yeah, yeah, you pretty much have to. I mean, obviously, sometimes it gets to you, and you're like, oh, well, maybe I should have, and then you think, okay, like, what would have happened if I did stay in school? Then you realize, okay, it wouldn't have been that much better. It would have made a small difference, which is why I said, like, it would have been made things a bit easier for me, but that still doesn't mean that I would have enjoyed myself. Like, for example, I couldn't have done freelance and then had that revenue on top of the, you know, all of that. So I would have been stuck in school, or felt stuck in school rather, you know, uh, rather than actually feeling free to do whatever I want on a day-to-day basis. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Do you have a particular idol that you look up to? Because
Mm,
you have an interesting combination, right? Software developer, entrepreneur.
not really. Weirdly enough, I don't necessarily like look up to anybody uh, within my field. I'm a huge basketball star, so I look up to like Michael Jordan, for example, but for like on the business side of things, just as much as on the basketball court, because he's just the most competitive person in the
Mm-hmm.
room. That's kind of what I want to be as well. Like I'm very, very competitive, unfortunately. Um, so yeah, I, but I don't think I have anybody within my field with like as a programmer and or uh, entrepreneur that I necessarily look up to.
You think that on the other side also kind of helps, because I see a lot of people who measure success by other people's success.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And although it's nice to have an idol to look up to and to kind of have this motivation of what's possible, do you think it kind of keeps you grounded and just um, in touch with yourself, not having an idol?
Uh, I think so. I think it definitely makes like I think because obviously like I said, I have like idols in basketball because I used to be huge into basketball. Um,
Those are those then mindset idols, right? You talk about competitiveness.
yeah, with mindset, but like also like as basketball players, like I idolized them, and I was like, okay, I want to be exactly like them. And
Mm.
like, when I used to play basketball, I felt like there was always a ceiling where I was like, oh, I could never be exactly like them, or I can never be in the position that they are. Whereas if now that I don't have an idol in the job and like the things that I do in my life, I feel like I'm a lot more confident in my skills, and I'm a lot more okay. Like, you know, no, I'm not saying that nobody else has ever done what I'm doing because there's a ton of people that have, but no one has ever gone through the exact same path I have, and it's time for me to just be the best person I can be, and like as long as I'm happy with myself, I'm happy. Like I don't have to be like the idol that I idolize. I guess yeah, I would agree 100% with what you said.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I also agree with what I said. But, I also feel like it's, nowadays with social media, you compare yourself to other people so often that you kind of, you lose motivation so fast because you're doing something, and even though you're getting better, which is a good thing, which you should be proud of, you think like, man, I'm never going to be like him. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like you had with the ceiling of basketball. Yeah, it's super nice to see what is possible, right? So you can dream big and stuff like that. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's really important to kind of reflect with yourself rather than with other people.
I think the social media aspect of things is definitely a big problem. I think I think comparing yourself to other people is inevitable as long as you're on social media and you see like other 20 something millionaires, billionaires, whatnot. You're bound to compare yourself to them. You're bound to be like, okay, how can I be exactly like them? I want to get there, but
Yeah,
like you're never going to get there as fast as they did.
definitely.
Or in the same way that they did, because what's not shown is like how much other work there is to that, because they're probably not the ones that made them made them millionaires. For example, like let's look at Kylie Jenner. Like a near billionaire, but she's not the one that made the brand. She's not the one that advertised it. She's not the one that built the whole empire to
Mm,
create her brand. And I think people forget that this whole part exists, like the part of like external factors that contribute to it, and also the downside, the downtimes. Like for example, that other person might be on holiday now and like it looks amazing and blah blah, blah, but there's also the time when they're at work and miserable and wondering why they why they've been working.
yeah,
So,
definitely. Especially on social media, people just tend to post the upsides, you know,
yeah.
like, hey, I'm on vacation, and then, but they work all night to be on vacation. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So yeah, what is your kind of long-term goal? What do you strive for?
Great. Well, weirdly enough, I don't like yeah, it's a bit of a weird goal, but I really I really, really want to move towards a place in life where I can do anything I want, like in an easy way. So to explain that a little bit further, um, it's for example like whatever you dream of, like whatever you want to, like whatever problem you want to address, whatever problem you want to fix. It's not just a small contribution. Like for example, oh, like I want to save the planet, so you're like, oh, okay, cool, then I'm going to start doing my bio trash, like throwing my bio trash separately from my regular trash and whatnot, but actually being like, okay, I'm going to start a fund. I'm going to make sure that this and that thing is like this and that bill gets passed and whatnot, and, like have the power influence to do these things. Um, so I don't necessarily strive towards like one specific thing, but rather towards like a place in life where I can do all those things. Um, and obviously, like what that requires is very is in my opinion is money and power, and yeah, those are things that everybody strives towards.
Right. Okay. Okay. Interesting. So, but then money and power is kind of the tools that then you would require to be where you are. So I definitely hope you get there eventually, right? At the end of your life, or towards before your life ends, actually. But if we talk about your job right now, right, which hopefully eventually gets you where you want to be, you've done this. Like how long has it been since you started your click CTO's entrepreneurial journey?
I think I'm pretty sure I got a reminder on my phone that it was December 2018 that this all
Mm-hmm.
started.
Okay.
So a bit over a year and a half.
Yeah. All right. So, and then within these years of, switching companies and doing lots and lots of developing and programming, what was like the things that you didn't expect that came with the job, positive or negative?
The things that I didn't expect were the uncertainty, because you never know, like you're never sure what's going to be in 6 months, or you're not sure even like 3 months from now. You don't necessarily know. You have an idea and you have a goal and you strive towards that goal, but you don't know if that goal will be a reality or not. Um, this, so that was the negative. The positive, though, is how full, like how yeah, wholesome. No, not really wholesome, but like fulfilling. I don't know, like how good it feels in that sense.
Right. Yeah.
Like yeah, like just having your first users, seeing that like how they use the app, seeing that your clients are happy with what they get, and like they then recommend you to other clients because they're like, oh, this is so good, like I need to talk to my friends about it. Like it's just feelings, that I didn't expect, but in a positive way.
Right. Yeah. I can definitely relate. It's like you you build something on your own, right? Like you have active, significant input into that. Yeah, seeing the results is just it's of course if you do something else for a company, it's also rewarding. But like in the startup sense, it's like a different story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it really does. Also with me, with having being the podcast host now, and before that, when I first started my YouTube channel, I like just did it for fun, and then I've never done like this entrepreneurial type of creation thing before, and I don't know, man. Once you try it, and you have the slightest bit of success, um, no man, it's crazy. It's
It feels different. Yeah. Yeah, they call it the startup bug for a reason,
they call it the
So
what?
the startup bug, like when the startup bug bites you,
Oh, really? I didn't know about that.
and then it's an itch, you gotta satisfy that itch and keep going.
It's
Um,
addicting.
yeah, no, yeah, it is a very, very different feeling.
Um, have you tried internships throughout your career?
No, funnily enough, I've never done an internship in my life. The only thing I've ever like the only place I've properly worked at was McDonald's for a summer.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Though like weirdly enough, I've worked more with companies while freelancing than like whilst actually doing internships and working. Yeah, but yeah.
Is the like the freelancing startup life now your like the ultimate life, or would you also consider trying out the regular work path of joining a company, um, and then also growing with them, but like in a completely different scale?
Yeah, weirdly enough, I've considered it before. I think I'd be decent in it, to be honest. But I also feel like I would get very frustrated with corporate hierarchy because if I want to make a change, I usually just like making that change. I don't necessarily like asking five different people to make that change. Can I make the change?
Yeah.
So yeah, in that sense, I think I've considered it, uh, but I don't think I'm ever actually going to do it.
Okay, because I think or like for me, right, I would say that the uncertainty is, you mentioned already, right, is something that comes with the job, and it's really there, and I think it's really significant, um, because I think it can kind of be scary to a lot of
Mhm.
people, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think this trade off between uncertainty and you know, having the safety of a corporation, but the downsides of hierarchy or less flexibility, something like that, is I think people should just try it, especially with programming. You learn everything on YouTube. It's like you're like the pinnacle example of, hey man, you can just try it.
Yeah, you really can. You really can just try it. And yeah, like I do see your point that the uncertainty is really like a proper issue. And whilst it is an issue, I also think that it's an opportunity, because it like you can, if you don't know where you're going, you can decide exactly where you are going. So you can say, for example, like, oh, I'm not sure, that things are going to work out 3 months from now. Well, it's a bit up to you, whether they do or they don't. Like one of
Mm.
my favorite quotes is from Henry Ford that says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. you know
Yep. Yep.
um, so yeah, and it's the exact thing. Like, it's whether you think you're going to be successful or not, you're right. You're 100% right, because it's all about the mentality you approach it with. And I think in that sense, it's an opportunity for you to just believe in yourself and build that self confidence and build your own brand, and kind of give yourself more flexibility as well in how you work, who you work with as well. That's really important, because when you're in a corporate environment, you don't get to decide who your colleagues are. In a startup, you totally get to.
Yeah.
Well, to start.
To a certain extent, yeah. No, but yeah, definitely agree 100%, man. That's a really nice quote. I like that. And yeah, with that being said, man, I think this is the perfect way to wrap things up, man. It's been such a pleasure having you on this podcast today, man, and getting the chance to have your story on here, see where you came from, and I hope all of you out there could draw some value from Ramses's experience. I know I definitely did, and that's what I'm here for. That's why I have this podcast, to learn from all different people with different professions. Before we finish, though, I want to kind of give you the opportunity to talk to the audience one last time. Let them know what you've got going on, how to contact you, maybe. Any last pieces of advice that you want to get off your chest?
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me. It was really fun. It was a really good
My
conversation.
pleasure, really.
And second, to the audience, I think I'll leave you with two things: a piece of advice and a promotion. Shameless plug. The first one, for the advice, just try things out. Honestly, like, it's good advice at any scale. Whether you're thinking, oh, I might want to get into drop shipping, and do it. Like, so,
Cool,
sorry,
baby, no problem, man.
just do it. Whether you're thinking, oh, maybe coding is for me, do it. Try it. There's plenty of resources online to do anything you want. And the shameless plug, check out Kibo. Kibo's amazing. It's a really cool app, and it's coming to production very soon. So you'll be able to download it straight from the App Store. Go to meetkibo.com. You'll find out everything about it. And if you want to contact me, you can text, or rather email me at ramses@meetkibo.com.
All right, there you have it. Ramses, I hope you have a wonderful day. To all of you out there, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see each other on the next episode. Ramses, we'll probably see each other again around pretty soon. And yeah, man, thank you again. It's been really a pleasure. Until then, take care, everyone, and we're out.